class at that time. And it's my pleasure to kind of pass the baton to Danielle.
Thank
And
you.
we'll get her started and we'll get her up here and
Okay.
sharing her
Thank you,
expertise.
Linda, and thank you, Rick, for helping to monitor things and inviting me. I'm so excited. Um, yes, Linda was my teacher, amazing teacher and educator, and just I'm so thankful that she is including dance into Shape PA because it's so important. So um, I'll get started.
Okay, I'll share.
A little bit more. I'll just give you a little bit more about me. I do have a wide variety. I've taught in elementary and high school and middle school. So I'm gonna start off with more high school. I'm not sure where everybody's at in their where you guys are. I don't know how many of you guys are currently teaching. I think I have a lot of the Westchester students, but if you are teaching, just kind of give me a background or give me a hands up that you are teaching, maybe what level you are teaching, so I can kind of gear some of the things. But towards the end, I'll go over some more elementary. So I'm going to kind of focus on high school to start, and then, but you can always gear everything that I say to both, and I'll kind of go through that as I go through the process. So, so we can go to the next slide if you want to. That would be great. So I'm trying to bridge the gap between artistic movement and functional movement, being your physical education movement. And I think it's important. A lot of us get nervous with how many of you are probably nervous to do any kind of dance in your physical education classes. I know that many physical education teachers are. Um, but then some have a dance background, so it comes easy to you. So I'm just going to try to give you some ideas of how to incorporate dance into your everyday PE activities that will work. So if you have any questions as we go through, just, put it in the chat or raise your hand as we go through. So we're going to go on to the next slide. So just kind of a question here, why teach dance or why not? Does anybody want to give me a reason why they think we should teach it? I'll go forward with it, but anybody have a reason why we should teach it in a phys ed class? Does anybody have anything? Somebody put it's fun. I like that. Yeah. Physical movement. Yeah, good. Promotes creativity. Awesome. Yeah, so a lot of you have a lot of the things that I'm going to talk, so that's awesome. I see your messages. Um, for the positives, first thing, it is a stress reliever for most people. I do have some students that are very stressed when they start dance in a class, like in a phys ed class. There are some people there, but for overall, and I just saw this article that was talking about dance being the number one stress reliever, and I was trying to find it to share it with you, and I couldn't find it. It was just on the news the other day, and I can't find it now. But physical benefits, cardiovascular, flexibility, um, cultural dance. I think somebody put that in there. There's lots of different cultural dances you can teach. Um, Low equipment, you don't need a lot of equipment, or you can use the equipment that you already have to kind of build things. And I think it teaches a lot of inclusivity because you can work together in groups, partners, and it's less stress than a team sport, probably for some kids, because some kids, that's not what they want, and that's not their strong suit. So, um, when you feel like you're as a phys ed teacher, you might feel like you have a lack of training. I don't know how much training everybody gets now in dance in the phys ed world. So in your college program, I know you do get some, but you may not feel as confident. Um, I'm gonna give you some tips on how to teach choreography today. So that'll give you some easy ways to get into it. But that might be, if you don't teach choreography on a daily basis, that's one of your things. Um, and then a lot of people just fear they don't have the rhythm. Rick, you got the rhythm right?
Mhm.
They don't feel like they have the rhythm, or they may have had a negative experience. Miss Linda, I'm going to tell you, I did have a negative experience in high school, not with you, but with square dancing. when I was like in ninth grade. I don't know if they teach it anymore, but you did have a negative experience. It was, not a great experience doing that. So, um, or you just fear that your students may not be engaged in it. But there's ways of getting them engaged. You may always have that one student that's not going to do it, but I feel like there's easy ways of getting us engaged. So, we can click on to the next slide. This just so physically, you can go ahead and click again. Teaches spatial awareness necessary for each sport. So we look at sports, just soccer, like when you watch the soccer players, like the 6-year-olds play soccer, they all like gather together. So when I'm teaching spatial awareness to dance, we're using how much space do we have around us? Am I going to be too close to the other dancer? So, dance is going to teach that just for sports as well. Basketball, all those sports that you've got to have spatial awareness where everybody is around you in your vision. And the next one, rhythm and timing for your most activities. So, there's timing in different sports activities, rhythm, we need it in a lot of activities as well. And then cardiorespiratory, endurance and flexibility to maintain fitness and injury prevention. So those are all really important as we go through. And then socially, I think this students work together in a non-competitive environment. I can still remember fifth grade phys ed doing a jump rope dance and loving it. And I can still picture myself doing that jump rope dance. You guys wouldn't know the song, but I do remember the song. Uh, and when I hear it, I still remember doing it was Walk the Dinosaur, if you don't know that song, but you might know it because I think it came back in a movie somewhere, Ice Age or something. But it's just we worked together as a group. There were four of us in a group. We worked together, created a jump rope dance, and it was fun. And that was my next slide. It's fun. So somebody put that in the chat. It is fun, and it can be fun. It can be scary, but it can be fun. So we'll go on to the next slide. So physical development, balance, I think is one of the key things that dance is going to teach us. That's you can click on that. I balance, agility, and coordination. And those are all things that we need in all sports, physical activity. Um, just with balance, your focus and control in dance can go through any kind of sport. Agility, we see football players. When I was teaching in North Carolina, I taught a whole class of football players. It was the whole football team was in my dance class for agility and for flexibility. So they all took dance. So that was a really cool um, experience that I got to do. It was they just that the football coach made him take dance. And we do know there's a lot of football players that take dance um, for those reasons. And then coordination. We need that in every sport and just your basic line dance. Even if you don't, even if you just want to introduce that, like that's an easy way to get into something for coordination because we have that all the time. So, you guys have any questions so far? I don't know if I'm missing anything in the chat. I don't want to miss anything. Good. Anybody have any other reasons why you think physical development that you can think of that might, you can feel free to unmute if you want to jump in on any of these too. So, all right, we'll go on to the next slide. So body awareness I have, and we talked a little bit about the spatial awareness, but how your body moves through space. Dancers spend a lot of time focusing on the different muscle groups and how far our muscles can go. And so just being able to teach your students a little bit of how far their muscles can go can help move safely through different activities and less injury. So I know I teach a lot of Pilates with my kids uh, and different ways of moving their body, not just, um, you know, stretching till we can't, stretching till the muscles are pulling. We're working safely through the muscles. So that's kind of a less injury that we're working on. So we can go to the next one. And then cardiovascular health. So a lot of people are like, oh, I've had a lot of people say, well, dance doesn't really, get their heart rate up. But hip hop, line dancing, moderate jazz class, they all do get your heart rate up, but those specific ones I think are ones that you can do. And again, line dancing. I don't know how many of you have done that, but that's an easy way. Um, Hip hop, a little bit more difficult, but I'm gonna give you some ways that you can introduce hip hop into your lesson here in a little bit. But um, line dancing, has anybody done a line dancing a lot in their classes? Do I have anybody that's currently teaching? I don't know. Does anybody just put it in your chat? I do. All right. So, okay. And then radio are great. Oh, great. Sixth through eighth. Good. Awesome. So we do have a few in here that are teaching, and hopefully you can include those. So next slide is inclusiveness. And I talked about those. It's an alternative for those who struggle at team sports. Um, a lot of my special needs students are very much into dance. Just kind of introducing them because they may not be the strongest at, basketball, but this is a way to get them engaged and working with other people. And I think it's helpful to get them partnered up with people, maybe a stronger dancer in the class. And that's always something. If you have a dancer that's in your class already, you can definitely, put them on the lead and help them to guide different steps of this process of including dance in your program. All right. And then the last one I have is well-being. And again, I was trying to find that article. If I find it, I'll send it to Linda. But improves self-esteem, reduces stress, and enhances the mood. So it was talking about the dance was the number one thing to just enhance your mood. And we all know that any kind of physical activity is going to do that. But even just, when we move and dance and just have fun, just let go, that's going to help us. So I do see some kids are intimidated by it, and that can be stressful to kind of get through. And I do practice that my classroom's a safe space, so I'm sure that you would do that in your classroom. But even more so with dance, I think you really need to set the boundaries first on how to make it a safe space that no matter, and I always say to my kids, no matter what what move you do, it's going to be considered dance. So we want to make it a safe space. So it's like I always start my class sometimes with just what's a practical move that you do every day. And I've always driven to work from a long distance. I'm always like commuting to work. So I do driving and I do a movement just of driving. And that's my movement just to start, just to get them thinking, okay, well, she just did, behind the wheel driving. What else could I do that I do every day? Just to kind of make it we're not doing pirouettes and leaps and massive turns to start just to get everybody comfortable. But when you say the word dance to some people, they're like, ah, and I'm sure some of you are like that too. You're stressed out, but I want you to not get too stressed about it. And I'm going to give you really basic ways to introduce it. So all right. So I know some of you, the next slide's on the elements of dance, and I probably a lot of you, if you've taken any kind of dance, you may have talked about this. And you may talk about this in your physical education classes, but I like to go through it because I think it's really important to include the elements of dance. And this is an easy way, um, elementary through high school, to incorporate it. And I'm gonna start mainly with high school, and then the end of this slide is I'm gonna just talk about the how to introduce it because there are a little bit different ways on how I introduce it to elementary than to high school. Um, but body you can introduce to any way that you want. So your instrument, it's your instrument. It's how the choreographer uses or dancer uses their body. So you can talk about all the body parts that you work through, your head, your shoulders, what can move, your arms, all the body parts that you can move, and even just have them move that body. You can do a set warm up where you just kind of isolate your body parts. So you're isolating your head, isolating your shoulders. So for those of you that have taken dance, it's basically a jazz warm up because we talk about isolating your body parts in jazz. Hip hop dancers isolate their bodies a lot. So that's kind of how the body awareness. And so with these elements of dance, you can use them later as you start to create. So if you really introduce them and really have the students work through them, then it'll be easier to introduce later on. So the next one's space. We talked about spatial awareness, just kind of how we move about space. So for elementary, just basically how they move through space. How close are they to their classmates, keeping a safe distance, moving through space. Visual forms that they can make. What kind of shape can you make with your body? So when you're working with high school students, what kind of ending pose or ending shape can they make to create, like if they created a dance, what's the ending shape that they made in their dance? So you can do it both ways with elementary and I think elementary is really easy to do space with. I'm sure that you've all done that if you've had students, you know how to do that. Timing is the next one. Tempo, rhythm, pulse, duration, using music. If I was teaching right now, if we were live, I would be, make sure I'd had music that was interesting to them, was an interest to them, that they could keep a tempo with, a rhythm, find the accent beat. So if there's a beat in the music that's kind of louder than the other beat, maybe they do a movement on that beat. So you're moving around and you do a movement on that beat. Um, some people have rhythm, some people don't. It's a natural thing, and it's okay. And it's kind of hard to teach that, but just trying to teach people rhythm, but you just gotta practice it, and hopefully, if they get the general tempo of something, and then they can add to it. But those are the difference. The next one's energy, and this is where I kind of change a little bit. Middle school, and high school students I have, because I teach right now. I teach some seventh graders up to 12th grade. So I have eighth grade as well. So I have middle school. But I teach them the energy of percussive, sustained, collapsing, vibratory, suspended, and swinging. I know that's a lot, but percussive movement is very sharp movement. So I talk to them about think of like cheerleading. You're not gonna be a cheerleader and just go, slow motion. It's a percussive movement. So most people can relate to that. Sustained movement, it's slow and controlled. So anything that's um, reaching out or think of like a smooth motion with your arm, that's a sustained movement. Collapsing is a slow fall, but it doesn't have to be a fall like your whole body falls. It could just be that your arm collapses down. Okay. Vibratory is a shaking or trembling movement. They love to do that because they just think it's fun, and that's hip hop usually has a lot of vibratory movement. Suspended movement is any kind of jump or a lift. I would maybe stay away from lifts if you're just starting dance um, in your physical education classes, but any kind of jump would be a suspended movement. And then swinging is any kind of so we think about, I compare it to like swinging a baseball bat. So swinging a baseball bat, just swinging your arm, swinging your leg, that can be. So all these things, all these simple movements that we do daily can be movement, and that's why it can be dance, and that's why I want you to explore it in a different way. You just have to introduce it a different way for students, and maybe not always say dance if you don't want to scare them off right away. And then I go on to elementary. So first, you can click again, Linda, sorry. For and middle school, sometimes it just depends, but I will introduce the percussive and sustain. But for elementary and middle, for energy, I usually try to stay to this because it's a little bit easier for them to understand. So sharp, smooth, free, bound, heavy, light. So I kind of do like a battle between, like, you put two groups on either side. Okay, this side's going to move sharp. What's that going to look like? This side's going to move smooth. What's that going to look like? Put some music to it. Um, once like some percussive jazz, hip hop music on the sharp side, and then you've got like a classical piece of music on the other side. So they're kind of like a battle between. Free and bound movement is they can move any which way they want. For the little kids, I always say those, what are those, those balloon things that are outside of car dealerships. There's things that move around, those balloon things. You could just move any way you want. Like that's free movement. Bound is restricting something. So say, all right, you got to put your hand on your shoulder, and every other part of your body can move, but your hand can't move because it's attached to your shoulder. So you can do that kind of just getting used to moving that way. And then heavy and light, like heavy movement. So very like stomping. it can get a kind of annoying, but like just letting your body drop down and letting your whole body feel the weight of your body almost to the ground, and then light, what's that going to look like up on your toes or moving around? So your elementary, middle school kids kind of will relate to that a little bit more than your high school kids because it's just a little easier to understand, I think. So that was a lot in that in that one slide. So do you guys have any questions for me on the elements of dance? Sometimes you'll hear action as one of them as well, which is it is an element of dance as well. I just wanted to keep it to body, space, time, and energy for you guys for this one. But action is like flick your hand or tap, or those are different things that you can do. But do you guys have any questions for me about the elements of dance and how to introduce them different ways? No. Has anybody studied the elements of dance? Have you guys studied them in your classes? And you can like raise your hand or shout out or no?
Can you hear me?
Okay. All right.
Hello?
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
At what point would you teach like the directions and levels and the
Okay, that's a good.
pathways?
Good. That would be in space.
Hmm.
That would be definitely in using the element of space. So you're teaching like where you're traveling through space. So which direction are you traveling? Forward, backward, side, or zigzags. And are you elementary?
Yeah, K to 6,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So elementary, definitely basic locomotor skills, galloping, skipping in the different pathways. And then you can add the shape at the end, like, okay, make a creative shape at the end. So you're going to gallop for 8 counts in a circular pathway and then make a shape at the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, what is the most important element of dance? Ugh. Um, I would, well, they're all important, but I think obviously you want to make sure that you can move your body. So I would say body's probably the most important, that they can move their body in different directions in different ways, and that's going to get them the most comfortable. So Noah, that would probably be, I would say, that to them. How would you introduce elements of dance to students with special needs, disabilities? Um, I think, again, I would start with the body, depending on, I don't know what the disability is, but the body's going to help you. If I don't know if they're wheelchair bound or if they're able to move, but I think the body is the best way to introduce the elements of dance to special needs because that's probably where they're going to understand. Spatial awareness, you're going to have some difficulties with some of our autistic students because they don't have that sense of spatial awareness, so that might be a little bit of a challenge for you. Timing is always difficult for students because, again, a lot of people don't have the tempo and the rhythm. They can't find that in the music. So, that would definitely. A lot of my elementary students, though, I loved the like sharp, smooth battle back and forth. If you make it just like, all right, you guys are the sharp side and you guys are the smooth side, and just battle back and forth with them. And you just have to have your music, some type of music that's gonna, go with that. But they really do love that. So I would say that. Hopefully that answered your question for the element for special needs. Anyone else have any questions on the elements dance? And I'm going to show you how I use them a little bit differently with some physical activities that are more common to you guys. Probably. Okay. You're welcome. All right, so we're going to go on to this next slide. And oh,
For some reason it's not moving.
you might have to hit it again. It was like
Oh,
there.
there we go.
I think it had a couple different so I wanted you to think of a sport that you could perform. And so this is kind of a basic way to start to introduce dance. So let's say you're working so that you don't even have to do a whole unit on dance. You can just, let's say you're working in tennis or soccer. Um, so you're teaching the skill of kicking a soccer ball. All right, and I'm not, even though my husband coaches soccer, my daughter plays soccer. He still says I don't know enough about soccer, but just the basic skills of kicking a ball. I'm sure that you practice that with your students in all levels. So you're going to break it down into distinctive parts. So like how you kick the ball, how you follow through, and how you finish. So just kind of think of that. Think of any type of movement you do. So how you can introduce the artistic side to it is kind of ask them to, all right, you're going to do it in slow motion. So we're going to put elements of dance in this. So we're going to use three elements of dance. So we're using our body already because we're already moving. And then we're going to move in slow motion. And then we're going to change the direction. And then you're going to also move sharp. So what's that going to look like? So I'm kicking the ball in slow motion. Then I'm going to pretend I'm kicking it in reverse. And then but I'm also kicking it sharp. So just kind of gives them a way to move differently and think about the process of how they're doing that. So they've kind of created a little choreographic phrase just by changing the mechanics, the functional mechanics of kicking a soccer ball. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? You understand a little bit, just to give you a basic idea of how to introduce a little bit of dance if you didn't want to do like a whole choreography section. Okay, well, slow it down and then add a different energy to it. So, anybody have any questions on that? So it's kind of giving them just a different way, a creative movement exploration of that activity. So I kind of wanted to, anybody have anything? Any ideas that you have that would work? That you already know that you have some pieces, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about including props and things, but jump rope, all those equipment that you can use too. All right, go ahead, Linda, you can go on to the next one. Okay, so kids love, I don't know how much of you, we can't have phones at our school, so I don't know this, but they love to like capture themselves in videos. So my students have Chromebooks, so they videotape themselves doing some choreography. But I was thinking you could have them just a functional movement again, have them create a little remix of their move in a 30-second loop. They love to create this. So they have a level change, maybe like a jump shot. They have a level change. So they might go up for the jump shot, come down, do some kind of level change, slow it down, and then add some kind of transition where they may have to do some type of movement at the end of it where they swing their arm a different way after they do their jump shot. So it's still including like the basic idea. So it's not scaring those kids that are like, well, I don't want to dance. I don't want to dance. Well, I'm a basketball player. So it's not scaring them so much that they don't want to do it. I think it's kind of introducing a way to give them, all right, well, after you do your jump shot, what can you do? You can do a pose on the ground, a level change, somehow slow it down or change the transition. So without even knowing it, they've created a dance phrase. Okay. And I think the other thing is that they've learned body control. I mean, we obviously know students that have the body control are going to be better athletes, better dancers. They're going to just be able to move better if they have control of their bodies. So these kind of things give them more control in, changing the level or changing the timing of something. Do you have any questions on that? Just ways to, and then you can videotape it, watch it, have them watch them. I don't know, put it to music if you want to. I think that's a great way. They love to use music, so you just have to make sure it's appropriate music for them. I usually like to give them like 5 options of music. I'm like, here's your 5 options, and then you can create. So, and I do teach dance, but I have gone into physical education classes and taught their classes in their dance units. So that's kind of how I get involved in a lot of physical education activities. They're like, come teach our dance unit because they don't want to. But hopefully you all, because dance is now a certified um, subject in PA, that you may all start to get dance teachers. So you'll have a resource there. But not every school that you go to in Pennsylvania, particularly, is not going to have dance. So hence the reason why when I graduated, I went to North Carolina because they had dance in most of their schools, and then Maryland. So, but now the PA has it. I now have my dance certification, so in Pennsylvania. So that's exciting.
I had a question about the remix.
Oh yeah.
How do they change the like for example, like throwing? How would they change the level change or timing without changing the mechanics of the skill. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe they throw on a lower level so they could like they get down low, like bend their knees and throw. So I know that's, I mean, it's just adding a way to introduce the dance. And
Yeah,
you
I think
were
it's
asking
great. I
about,
like the idea. It's creative. I'm just,
yeah, and timing.
mm.
Yeah, throwing it in slow motion. So then you're also seeing the mechanics of how they're throwing too. Maybe, you know what I mean? They're also seeing the slow motion of it rather than just throwing fast.
So
Um,
it could be like a bounce back pass, right? In basketball
right.
is lower than like an overhead pass.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be
okay.
good. That's a good idea. Good, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. What platform do you use to give students choice? I usually just select music. I use my device, and I just will have them, I'll play the options for them and then select it. We do have, I use Schoology so I can put music on their Schoology page. So if they're working in groups, I can put the 5 selections or 3 selections on Schoology and they choose from there. So I don't know what everybody will end up having. Sometimes Schoology blocks my music. So even if it's something that's, even if it is appropriate, they block it. Like I had a classical piece of music. I was on a flexible day today and I had a classical piece of music and it was blocked. So I had to fix that. So, drums alive, would that be considered a dance activity? I think I'm gonna get to that. Drums alive, is that the with the balls? Is that right? Because I did use that if that's what. Yeah. So I was going to get to that later on. But that's great that you talked about Drums Alive. It's a kit, if that's what, if we're talking about the same thing. So it's the exercise balls with drumsticks or rhythm sticks, and they sit on a, does everybody know what I'm talking about? Linda, you know what I'm talking about? And they sit on a bucket, and I have used those. And honestly, I didn't think that high school kids would like that, but they really did. They loved it. And they lo like beating up a. So you do if you don't know, if you're not familiar with it, but rhythm sticks, you make up a rhythm. You can make rhythm sticks up with the rhythm sticks, then you hit the ball, then you add movement to it. I've done it where we partnered up because we didn't have enough balls, so we partnered up and the one person made the rhythm and the other person made up the movement, and I used the elements of dance. So they had to have body, they had to have something with space, like a level change. Um, and then, an energy change while they were doing it. So one person makes the rhythm, the other person does it, and then you share. Sometimes if they don't want to share in front of the whole class, I use like share with each other first till kids get become comfortable because a lot of kids don't want to share dances in front of other people. Even my dance classes, they don't want to share sometimes. But so if you share in smaller groups, especially middle school and elementary, probably share in small groups that would work. So hopefully I'm not going too fast. If I am, just let me know. So hope that answered your question about drums alive, but that's a great way to use rhythm and timing. And high school kids love it. So if you have the equipment, it's great. I don't think it's too much. I don't know. I don't know how much they are to buy. My school doesn't have them, but my old school has them. Awesome. So we're gonna go on to the next, and I didn't social dances and cultural dances in physical education class. I didn't put a lot because I don't know where everybody is, but obviously your social dances, line dancing is huge still. Actually, feel like it's made a comeback. I see a lot more people line dancing. My kids love line dancing. They want to do like I have a dance team at my school. They want to do a line dance fundraiser. And I was like, are people really going to come? And they said, yes, they're going to come. And I was like, all right. So, line dancing is still pretty big in some areas. Cultural dances that I teach, I'm trained in a lot of cultural dances. So I usually go into a lot of physical education classes and do that. So like I teach African dance to my students, or I'll teach salsa to my students. So because I've known those styles, but I'm sure that there's tons of ways to find those cultural dances. There's books, there's CDs, there's different things that you can use. There's the Chinese fan dances for the elementary kids. They love that. This is a matter of getting some of those equipment. Even if you get like scarves and you do the dances with scarves, there's lots of those things. So I don't know how much access you have to cultural dances, but there's lots of ways to get those and just incorporate those. So I just feel like social dance can be really introduced with a line dance here and there. Maybe that's your warm up for the day. You teach a line dance and you have kids rotate around as they're doing that, and then a cultural dance. throw it in there every once in a while. For Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month, you do one of those dances. It's just always something to include. So I'm going to go on to elementary, just to touch base, which we can go ahead and through these. So rhythm, I was going to talk about the Drums Alive. So that was awesome that you brought that up, but Drums Alive, any kind of way that you can incorporate in the elementary, they love rhythm. You can talk to your music teacher. They have rhythm sticks. You can borrow those things using equipment, jump ropes, even jumping rope to the beat of the music, or they have to, count as they're jumping. And then, in dance, I always say we only have to learn how to count to 8 and we start over. That's why I wasn't very good at math. Um, but, we count to 8, we start over. So just making sure that you do that. How do you get students producing? Okay, performance anxiety. Somebody just asked, how do you get students to participate in dance and don't want or have social anxiety? So um, that's a difficult, again, you want to make sure that you have a comfort level with the kids. If you group them, depending on what age you're looking at, a lot of times I group my stronger dancers maybe with somebody that's not as confident because that's going to help them kind of, I know it seems like it's not going to help them, but if you're doing some choreography things, that's going to help them feel a little more confident because they're not going to have to really create on their own. So I think that's a good way to do that, to partner them up with somebody. Um, Social anxiety, you just have to build that right away with the whole, like, again, anything you do and any type of movement you can do can be dance. So it's just building that classroom culture is the key thing. So having that, and just talking to them about it beforehand, that we're not going to laugh at anybody. We're going to just have fun with this and make this an enjoyable time. You're always going to have that one student. I was just observed not too long ago. One student laughed during the class, and I was like, really? Like, while another student was performing. As much as you try to teach it, they're gonna they're gonna still do that one thing that you're just like, ah. But that's gonna happen. So moving on, we have the elements of dance. So I kind of went through those, but you're welcome, Rachel. Thank you. Um, Space, time, and energy, those are great things to teach. I think Jake brought up of the teaching space, the traveling through space, the levels, even if you're doing like play the music and you freeze in a low level, freeze in a medium level. Those are all things that you guys already do in elementary phys ed. So it's just a matter of, incorporating a little bit more. All right, well, we're going to move slowly through it, or we're going to add energy to it. I have cultural dances. Elementary kids love cultural dances. So, and again, your music teacher is a valuable tool at your school for elementary because they have a lot of the stuff. And actually, they probably have a lot of the cultural dances somewhere in a book or on a CD or something that they can, and we have access to it all the time, but they probably want you to do it and they'll do it with you. Or you do the dance and they'll do the music and you can kind of, I do a lot of, I taught arts integration in elementary school, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit as I go the next couples points here. So prop exploration with PE, jump ropes, we talked about the balls. You could just move them with the balls. Sometimes I would have my elementary kids, okay, guys, here's the prop. You got to pick one and you got to create movement with the prop using elements of dance or making a rhythm with it. So they picked out of a bin and that was what they picked, and scarves, those kind of things. And you get some really cool things. You get kids that are really interested and come up with some really great ideas. I was that kid in elementary school though that created dances at recess. So now I understand not everybody's going to be like that, but I was that kid. So you just have to partner them up with stronger people that you know are going to work hard. And the last thing is arts integration, which I'm a huge advocate of because I did it for so long, but using what the classroom teachers in the elementary setting, they love it. If you can tie in a book with like a book that they're reading to something that you're doing and you can incorporate some movement and dance with it. Um, I did a lot of things with like fifth grades did cells and I did a whole dance on like the nucleus and the membrane and and my daughter's in biology right now and I was like my dad or her husband was like my husband not her husband my husband was like um you should just learn mom's cell dance. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I did a whole dance on the cells, and they learned through arts integration. That was the way they did it. So there's different ways that you can incorporate, the core curriculum. It's just a matter of finding time to plan with them and just talk to them. But usually the classroom teacher loves that kind of stuff, if you can do that. So, and I could spend hours on arts integration, but that's not what this is about. So that kind of comes to the end of what I had to, say, and hopefully I wasn't talking too much for you, but do you guys have any questions for me? I think my last slide is just questions. If you guys have any questions or anything that's like ideas that you have that you want to run by me, be great.
I know when I was teaching and we went into the dance concept, I actually didn't start with the word dance.
Mm-hmm.
Like you and I have talked about movement exploration, and I
Yeah.
love how you integrate sport and a sport movement and make it a dance.
Yeah.
And I think of for me as an athlete, I was a discus thrower, and the discus is very it's rhythmic.
Yeah.
And I never thought that I could maybe put some music to that and make it a little bit of a dance so that I
Yeah.
could be a little less rigid with my movement. But
Yep.
and then I think of, and this isn't anyone's time frame here, maybe Rick's, but Ronaldo Nehemiah was an Olympic hurdler, and he then became a wide receiver for football, professional football team, and he started his life with dance. So
Yeah.
I used to talk about that too in my class, and everyone's, their eyes get a little bigger, like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
the connection.
Yeah. And I do think that's important not to always say dance, just and Rachel asked in the chat, how do you grade during the dance unit? So it just depends what you're going to have them do. If it's the um, something that you want them to include the elements of dance, I just do they have all the elements of dance? What, a rubric that are they using space? Are they using timing? Are they using, the energy, that some type of energy? So I do a lot of rubrics for that. So that's kind of, and then feedback for them. So if that helps. The cultural dances, are they on the right step? Are they, on the right foot, correct foot, that kind of thing. So you're looking at that. Hopefully that helps. You guys have any other questions for me? Hopefully I gave you some tools. I love that Linda used that toolbox because it is important to stay connected um, in these groups and Shape PA, and I'm in the dance. There's a dance one too for PA, and I was in the Maryland one so for a long time. So it was always helpful to go because there's always something you can learn and there's always something you can bring back. So it's good that you guys are doing these. I know some of you are forced to do them maybe, but it is really good, important. So stay with it to stay up on these kind of things because there are tools that you can use. So any other questions for me? Put in the chat.
And if you think of a question and you want to connect with Danielle, I can be that
Yeah.
connection. So
Yeah. Or, I mean, I can put my email in there. I don't care. I can put it in the chat.
okay.
I can write it here. It's not like, there we go. Yeah, just thestrange@agcharter.org. So, and I'm not too far from some of you at Westchester, so I will, if you're at Westchester, I'm not far. Oh. Any other questions for me, guys? Hope you got something out of it. Something with the Google form. Hopefully they got that figured out. So,
How about a thumbs up for Danielle for a great webinar this evening. And raise your hand if you picked up on something that you could actually use.
Oh, good. There's one thumb up.
Yeah,
Nice. Yay.
nice,
Thank you.
nice.
Yeah, there's so much that you can do, and I could probably talk for a long time. Oh, I got lots of thumbs up.
Come
Good.
back again.
I could talk for a long time on, and again, arts